Hello, brain checkers, and welcome to this episode where we continue looking at contraception. In this episode, we're going to be looking at the cervical secretions, or how you can use the cervical secretions to determine the period when you are fertile and when you should obviously avoid sexual intercourse if you want to try and use that method as a way of contraception or preventing pregnancy. Now, cervical secretions are something that you will need to understand. Now, before you even get to understand these cervical secretions, it means that you need to actually be checking your cervical secretions. Now, when we're looking at the cervical secretions, you are going to have periods when you will have what we refer to as the dry days. It means that there's not going to be any cervical secretions that are going to be present. So it means that when you go and check the cervical secretions, or you want to try and get through to the cervix to see if there are any secretions, you may not notice anything. So it means that those are your dry days. In your dry days, even if you have sexual intercourse, the chances of you getting pregnant then are going to be very limited. Why? Because the cervical secretions do play a key role in facilitating the movement of the sperms to get through to the egg or the ovum and then be able to fertilize it. But that is only going to obviously happen if your cervical secretions have started becoming a little bit light. So it means that they have to get to a stage where they are wet, clear, and stretchy. So you notice that you have a dry period from about day 6 to about day 9. And then from there, then the secretions begin to change now, and they're moist and white and very sticky, meaning that they are thick. And during that time when they are thick, it means that it is going to be hard for the sperm to then penetrate and get through to the ovum. The sperm has to wait until such a time when you have wet, clear, and then you have that stretchy kind of cervical secretions. And that is only going to happen somewhere around day 12 to about day 16 or so. So it means that you're already moving towards that 14-day mark that we said is the time for ovulation, or the time when ovulation does happen. So it means that the change in the consistency of the cervical secretions then is what is going to determine when you're most likely to be fertile, and also when pregnancy is most likely to occur. So what we are saying is that once you notice that change from the white and sticky cervical secretions to now getting into wet, clear, or egg white, that you would notice, that is how it's basically going to appear. That is a stage when you are then at peak of your cervical secretions, meaning that the chances of you then falling pregnant around that time when you notice those secretions are then going to be high, meaning that that is the time around which you should then avoid sexual intercourse. That means that around day 9, you'll be avoiding sexual intercourse from about day 9 to about day 18 also. Once you have done that, it means that now you're looking and understanding your cervical secretions. You can also use what we call a 2-day method. Now, the 2-day method does not require you to consistently check on your cervix and your cervical secretions on a daily basis, meaning that on the day that you have noticed the secretions, sexual intercourse must be avoided, because if then it does happen, then you're already in your fertile period, and then you can go ahead and fall pregnant. And if you notice the secretions, that is a day prior, you again have to avoid sexual intercourse on the day that you are looking at it from, because then you have to look at how long, or what is the lifespan of an ovum. So an ovum, or the female egg, has a lifespan that is on an average is about 17 hours. So we usually use 24 hours, but on an average it is about 17 hours, which is about 0.70 days. So that 24-hour period, if sexual intercourse is then had around that particular time, then it means that it would culminate into a pregnancy. So if you avoid sexual intercourse on the time that you have noted those secretions, then pregnancy can then be avoided. So it means that post-ovulatory, if you have the 3-4 days after that, then the chances of it culminating into a pregnancy are going to be very minimal. If you cannot avoid sexual intercourse around that time, then it means that you have to use an alternative method, which could be a barrier method that you can use. You can obviously use the condoms, as we're going to be discussing them. It could be female or male condoms that you could use around that time. So that is the cervical secretions. It requires you to obviously be able to note a change in the consistency of the cervical secretions. And you can only do this if you have been looking at your cycles from time to time. You will not be able to determine when you are fertile if you just look at one particular cycle. So you have to look at a number of those cycles and then be able to determine what the consistency of the secretions are. As As long as you notice that raw egg white kind of appearance and you have that stretchiness in the secretions, then it means that that is when you're at peak of your cycle, and most likely if sexual intercourse is around that time, then it would culminate into a pregnancy. There is also another method that you can use. While we're still at the cervix, we can also look at another method that we also call the cervical changes, meaning that you're looking at the changes that are happening to the cervix. Now, what is going to be happening to the cervix? In a normal instance, when you are not in your fertile days, when you are in your safe days, the cervix is going to be low in the vagina, it is going to be firm, and it is going to have a closed os, meaning that the opening to the cervix is going to be closed. So that is when you are in your safe days. But when you go in and try to feel for your cervix and you find that the cervix has then moved into the upper part of the vagina, meaning it is quite high in the vagina, it feels very soft, and then seems or feels as if it is opening a bit and is straightening, it means that it is preparing to receive. And that is a time that you're actually fertile, because any deposition of spermatozoa or sperms right into the vagina, then that is going to allow them to actually swim through, and they'll gain access into the uterus, move all the way to the fallopian tubes, find that ovum, and then fertilize it, and then pregnancy is going to happen. So if you notice those changes into the cervix, and you also combine that with the cervical secretions, then you would know when the best time would be for you to obviously avoid sexual intercourse. Now, like I have always made mention in all these fertility awareness methods, it is you having to be responsible and disciplined for you to be able to know when exactly you are fertile and when exactly you are in your safer days. And one method of fertility awareness may not outride the combination of the methods. It means that efficacy of these fertility awareness methods increases when you actually combine the methods together and use them as a whole, unlike using them individually. Now, that is about cervical secretions and how you can basically use it as a family planning method or as a method of contraception. Now, if you found this particular video helpful in understanding what to do and basically what to look out for, then don't hesitate to drop me comments. Don't hesitate to share the video as much as possible. If you're not yet following, then definitely do follow. Head on to my YouTube channel as well and subscribe. Hit the notification button so you don't miss any of the amazing stuff. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll definitely see you in the next one.